Just one more, page 239. The Ten Bodhisattva Grounds. The Excellent Intelligence Ground. The ninth ground, the Excellent Intelligence Ground. Once the eighth Bodhisattva Grounds explanation had concluded, the Tathagata manifested great spiritual knowledges, powers, causing tremor in an inconceivable and incalculable number of kachis and of lands throughout 10 directions. The body of that all-knowing and seeming supremely honored one then sent forth everywhere immensely radiant light that illuminated with days and presence all those countless lands, causing all beings therein to be filled with happiness. These incalculably many hundreds of thousands of kachis of Bodhisattvas simultaneously ascended into space, where they remained and presented offerings superior even to Deva's marvelous gifts to those whose proclamations are most superior of all. The great Vajrasavarta in heaven, King, and the Vajrasavarta in Devas, then all together and with unified minds felt meritorious joy. They each then presented all different sorts of many types of gifts. As offering to the extremely deep ocean of meritorious qualities, 1,000 myriad gods of celestial nymphs were also present, who filled with joyous exultation in body and mind. Each played meritorious many kinds of music as offerings to the great guiding teacher among humans. Then the many sorts of music played simultaneously 100,000 myriads of quite countless musical variations, that by the awe-inspiring spiritual power of the one, well-gone one vehicle, well-gone one, either praised with sublime voice, saying, the quiescent and pliant one, free of defilements and injuriousness, skillfully cultivates whichever ground he enters. Possessed of mind like space, he goes forth in 10 directions, broadly proclaiming the Buddha's path to awaken many beings. In all places throughout the heavens among men, he manifests incomparable marvelous adornments, arising from the meritorious qualities of the Tathagata, that cause those who observe them to delight in Buddha's wisdom. Without leaving that a single land, he goes to visit many lands. In this, he is like the moon everywhere illuminating the entire world. Even as his voice conceptual thoughts have all become quiescent, like echoes in a violin, there is no place where they do not resound. Where there are beings of lesser resolve, he spawns for them the practice of select disciples, and their minds are bright, sharp, and pleased by the particular vehicle. Then he discourses for them on the path that he intermediate vehicle. For the kind and compassionate who delight in beneficence, he explains for them the deeds practiced by the Bodhisattvas. For those with the resolve to acquire the most superior wisdom, he shows them the insurpassable Dharma of the Tathagata. In this, he is like a conjurer in his creation of many phenomena, wherein none of those forms or features are real. So too is with this conservation of this Bodhisattva's wisdom, so showing how the transcended existence of non-existence. Having thus sung with 1,000 myriad beautiful songs, these songs praising the Buddha, they all then stood there in silence. The Liberation Moon then spoke, saying, this congregation now please expound now on the path as practiced on the ninth ground. Vajragarha commences the ninth ground explanation. At that time, Vajragarha Bodhisattva informed the Liberation Moon Bodhisattva, saying, "This is pursued endeavors enabling ninth ground access, a son of Buddha. Here we have the Bodhisattva who resorting to such immeasurably vast knowledge as this he has pursued reflective meditative contemplation and has additional sought to seek out ever more supreme realization of quiescent liberation, to further cultivate the wisdom of the Tathagata, to sex the secret Dharma of the Tathagata, to contemplate nature of inconceivable great knowledge, to provide the gateways to the and assemblies, to become equipped with the great spiritual super knowledge, to enter different sorts of words, to cultivate the powers of fearlessness and Dharma associated to the Buddhas, to accord with all Buddhas and turn the will of the Dharma, and to never relinquishing his really compassion, original false. It is he who then succeeds in entering the Bodhisattva's ninth ground, the ground of excellent intelligence. The Bodhisattva the 10 types of reality-based knowledge of the Dharma, of karma. Sons of Buddha, the Bodhisattva has sat dwelling on these ground of excellent intelligence knows in accordance with reality. The effects of practicing dharmas are good, bad, and karmically neutral. The effects of practicing dharmas are either associated with three or the contaminants. The effects of practicing worldly dharmas and worldly transcendent dharmas. The effects of practicing dharmas that are conceivable and dharmas that are inconceivable. The effects of practicing dharmas that are definite and dharmas that are indefinite. The effects of practicing dharmas, practicing Saravaka dharmas and dharmas of particular Buddhas. The effects of practicing the Bodhisattva of practicing dharmas. The effects of practicing dharmas with technical grounds. The effects of practicing conditional dharmas. The effects of practicing unconditional dharmas. Is 10 types of reality-based knowledge of entangling thickets. The Bodhisattva uses such wisdom to know in accordance with reality, entangling thickets, in being's mind, specifically knowing. The entangling thicket of afflictions, the entangling thickets of karmic affections, the entangling thickets of faculties, the entangling thickets of resolute beliefs, the entangling thickets of sense realms, the entangling thickets of resolute intentions, the entangling thickets of light intensities, the entangling thickets of births, the entangling thicket of the continuity of karmic propensities, and the entangling thicket associated with the difference among the three groups of beings. 10 types of reality-based knowledge of being's mental aspects. This Bodhisattva knows in accordance with reality of all different sorts of characteristics of being's mind, specific knowing. The characteristic of arising with West character, the characteristic of swift transformation, the characteristic of either being destroyed or undestroyed, the characteristic of having no physical form, the characteristic of becoming boundless, the characteristics of purity, the characteristic of being either defiled or undefiled, the characteristic of being in either held in bondage or freed of bondage, the characteristic of being deceptive bodies, endeavors, and the characteristic of manifesting in accordance with destinies of rebirth. So too, So it is that he knows in accordance with reality such characteristics numbering hundreds of thousands of myriads of qualities, knowing characteristics that in number extend to the point of incalculability. His reality-based knowledge of the affliction characteristics, so too does he know all different characteristics of the afflictions, especially knowing their characteristics of falling one long and far, the characteristics of possessing bodily mainly basis for their arising, the characteristics of accompanying the mind in their arising and thus not being abandoned, the characteristics of possessing the same quality in both their latent and arising states, the characteristics of being either associated with mind or dissociated from mind, the characteristics of abiding in a manner corresponding to the destiny of rebirth one enters, the characteristics of differing in each of the three realms of existence, the characteristics of craving views ignorance and pride to be as calaminous as deeply penetrating arrows, and the characteristics of uninterrupted continuity in serving as causes and conditions of the three categories of karmic actions. Briefly, it stated that he knows in accordance with reality such characteristics, thus knowing even up to the 84,000 such characteristics. That's the first reading of this chapter. Part 9, the Excellent Intelligence Ground. Ten Bodhisattva Grounds, page 239.